Hello everyone and welcome back to episode 5 of Go Again, a fabulous cast. I'm Andrew and Amy has called complete dibs on Thea, so I don't get to play Warrior at all. But what I've kind of zoned in on this week with our Constructed is Katsu. So today we're doing In Focus Katsu. Alright guys, welcome back. So Katsu the Ninja, he's pretty cool. He's actually the only guy in the game right now who currently has 2 weapons, just because he's dual wielding his little katanas there, or his kodachis that is. He is really unique from the other guys for 2 reasons really. One, he depends highly on all these combos, and we'll spend some time going through the combos. But also he has an exceedingly low cost curve, which means that his deck building is really very different, I think, than the other 3 heroes, because you're playing a lot of zeros and a lot of ones, so you can kind of really skew away from the 3-pitch cards in some instances, right? So I think there's a lot of interesting things, but before we get too deep into that, let's actually go through not just what he does, but let's actually go through his big cards, because it's the big key cards that kind of define the guy. So Katsu himself, once per turn, when an attack action card you control hits, discard a card with cost 0. If you do, search your deck for a card with combo, banish it, and then shuffle your deck, and then you can play it this turn. So do note that if you decide not to play it, it actually stays banished, nothing else happens to it. So you actually end up with a stack of banished cards, but only the one you banish that turn. The one you banish can only be played on that turn, if that makes sense, right? So, and then his sword, or his dagger, only hits for 1, but naturally has Go Again, because most of the time you're going to have a 0 drop, right? So what you're really going to want to do ideally is have a good number, probably like 6 to 9 0 cost 3 pitches in your deck to try to kind of round out your curve, so that you can try to pitch that 3 so you can get a lot of 1s, so, or a lot of pay 1s for hits. So let's also focus on his big gear, right? His big gear is the Mask of Momentum. This is his legendary one, right? So once per turn, in effect, when an attack action card you control is the 3rd or higher chain link in a row to hit, draw a card. And then it has Blade Break with a 2 defense. But this is, you're not really defending with this as much as you are using it for its ability, right? So obviously with Katsu, the problem with making so many attacks is that it takes so many cards by definition, right? And this one helps to replenish that. Now you do have to hit for the 3rd time, which obviously your people can play around, but on the plus side, that makes them deplete their hand. So it's kind of a give or take there, right? Then let's look at his majestic specialization, Lord of Wind. If Mugensi Release, and this will kind of go into the combos that really just makes up his deck, right? But if Release was the last attack, this combat chain may pay X resource points as additional cost with Lord of Wind. If you do, shuffle X target cards named Surging Strike, Whelming Gust Wave, and or Mugensi Release from your graveyard into your deck, and then Lord of Wind gains plus X attack on whatever that was, right? Mugensi Release, which leads into Lord of Wind. If Whelming Gust Wave was the last attack, this combat chain Release gains +1, Go Again, and if this hits, search your deck for any number of cards named Lord of Wind, reveal them and put them in your hand and shuffle your deck, right? So it tutors Lord of Wind, which is your ultimate end card. And then another majestic, actually this is one I do have. This one's just pretty fundamental. It's not anything super special, but target ninja attack action gains +1 attack, and then draw a card. Nothing super special because it doesn't hit for very much, but it's basically free play because it replenishes itself, right? So these are the big, sexy cards for Katsu, and they kind of round out his kind of end-game suite, right? However, for the rest of us who can't just go out and buy 19 boxes to get all of the Majestics and Supers, we have really 2 combos available to us, right? The first one is the Head Jab combo, right? So it goes Head Jab, Open the Center, and then Fluster Fist, and then there is a Super for Pounding Gale, right? This one is a 0 into a 2, and the 0 Head Jab has Go Again just naturally, which is very cool, right? So 0 into a 2, and then into a 0 or a 1, depending on which way you go, right? What's nice about this is Fluster Fist is a rare, so it's not as hard to get, so you can kind of round out that combo pretty easily. The next one, and the one that I prefer, and I'll talk about why in just a second, is actually the Leg Tap combo, right? So the first one is just a flat out go again. The red version actually hits for 4, which is not bad. Do remember that if you have a 0 again in the discard, that you can actually lead in with the blade, right? So you can go blade, blade, drop this. Then you can rising knee thrust, which is also very good with combo, and then it ends in blackout kick, which is your rare, or in hurricane technique, which is in your super. Hurricane technique's not bad at all, but again, it is a super, so you're going to have less of those flying around and available to you. Do note that that's also only in a 2-pitch version, right? The supers and the majestics don't have multiple versions. So, yeah, that basically boils down to it. Now, let's just for the sake of argument here, talk about the ultimate combo for him, right? Whelming Gust Wave. If Surging Strike was the last, Surging Strike opens into Whelming Gust Wave, which then goes into Meganti Release, which we already talked about, which then goes into Lord of Wind. This one's a little harder to get as a normal person in this game, right? Because the first 2 are commons, which is fine, but then you have a super that goes into a majestic, right? So if you start talking about comparing the 3 combos, which one's going to be easier for you to pull off in game? Probably actually the last one, but what's going to be harder for you to build in your deck? Definitely the last one, right? The first 2 are much more achievable. So I personally like leg combo just because it's 1 cost. I do realize that the head jab itself is a 0 that just naturally hits and has go again. But the reason I like the 1 cost is that if you don't pull the combo, it works pretty, if you can't like pull the combo off from your hand, it works pretty well with blade attack, and then just playing 1, maybe getting the 0 off as well. All right, so now let's talk about the breakdown of the combo, right? So remember, we can include 9 of these, and if we're gonna be going full combo, we probably only have enough room for 1 combo, right? And the reason is we've got 9 of, you'll do 9 of the first, 9 of the second, and then I think you run 6 of the third in that combo chain, right? You could potentially run maybe a few more if you're running, like, let's say in the Fluster Fist, you're running Fluster Fist and the super. I think in that case you could maybe run more, but I still think the right breakdown is 996. But that in itself is 24 cards in your deck. That's using up just under half of your deck building space. So I think that probably you are only going to have enough room to run 1 combo. Because think about it, naturally if you run 2 combos, it's going to be really hard to get everything to match up, even barring Katsu's ability or the other type of draws you get. But that puts you at 48 cards, and that's not a lot of flexibility for other spice. So I think you only have enough room for 1. So again, I do want to speak, I realize that from the head jab combo that Fluster Fist could in theory hit for a ton because it keeps stacking on the number of hits that have been in that chain. But again, if we're only playing in poor man's land, right, where we have not a whole bunch of stuff for card draw, I think that kind of caps out, and I think giving the flexibility of the leg combo is probably a little better. So that's what I've been playing in my deck as a leg combo. That's just kind of where I've gravitated. So other cards that work well with him, like Scar for a Scar, I don't think that's a shocker to anybody. I know that's one of the more popular draft cards out there, right? The red version of Scar for a Scar, 1-pitch version. I also like Scour the Battlescape. This is also the one that gives you go again if played from your arsenal. So if things don't work out, drop it in your arsenal. It can help you lead off. And then, of course, Nimblism, right? I play just the 1-pitch version of Nimblism. It's just 3 extra cards in the deck that can give you an additional 3 costs on a 0. It's actually pretty good. You're never pitching that, right? You're always going to play that into something. So, yeah, I like that. So Katsu, of course, can do some pretty stupidly good things, right? So the great thing about him is he's a lot of fun. It takes a little bit of strategy, it's a little bit of challenging while you play to try to get the combos to work out, especially with only having 4 cards in your hand, right? You kind of have to do some pretty smart things. However, when you compare him up to the other heroes, I think he's at a disadvantage in poor man's land because his high payout is really heavily dependent upon getting higher rarity cards. Now, I realize that's a true statement across the board, but I think it applies more to Katsu than it does the other guys, right? Take Thea, right? You can build a pretty decent and consistent warrior deck on a budget. I don't think that you can get the same level of power and consistency that you can for Katsu, right? If you were to just do a 1-to-1. Bravo, of course, sure, it would be great to have all those cards that have like 11 attack out there. But on the other hand, from a budget standpoint, throwing 6 or 7 out there is perfectly reasonable when you're also doing 3 pitches. So I think that's really the challenge ahead of Katsu, is that he's going to be a little harder to build into. But hey, man, once you get all the pieces together and you get that deck finally tuned and you get a bunch of reps with it, I think he's going to be a killer. So I'm really looking forward to getting more reps with Katsu. For those of you out there who do have experience with Katsu, what do you think? How's he performing against Thea? I know I've been getting my butt kicked recently by her. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Again, if you like what we're doing here, please give us the feedback, give us a like, give us that subscribe, and if nothing else, go Commando.